This video is for entertainment purposes only. None of the information you're about to hear should be considered medical advice, and you should always consult a licensed medical practitioner before embarking on a health or lifestyle change. Okay, Tom Garvey, the Keto Cook. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good, Jason. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for agreeing to do this and being the first official guest of the Keto Conversations reboot here. Trying to bring the keto story to as many people as we can, and bring different aspects and different, sort of takes on the keto diet, because it's not a one size fits all thing. So the more information we can get out there, the better. Usually I like to start this off with asking our guest sort of a backstory of how you sort of came to adopt the keto lifestyle, and what led up to it, and how it's been going.
Yeah, since I would say since early 2000s, I've been having nothing but health problems. Anywhere from I had bladder cancer. During the time I had bladder cancer, also wound up from the treatment, wound up type 2 diabetic. Okay, so I had to stop treatments and stuff. So when the doctor tells you, guess what, you need to get your affairs in order. Okay, you need to step up to the plate and start looking at what's going on. I was 50-something years old, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I'm holding my little grandson. And matter of fact, my first bladder surgery I had, my grandson was born the day before I had my first surgery. So I held him, and that was like the wake up call. But I didn't start keto right then and there. What I did was I was starting to juice. I went the juice route, and trying to eat. It did help a little bit, but once it really took effect, when I said, so I scratched my head. I said, I'm not going anywhere with this, because halfway through the treatments, they turned around and said that I had type 2 diabetes on top of everything else. So what I did was I started looking into different ways of doing a different lifestyle, changing my ways and everything. And I got into the keto end of it. And lo and behold, my blood sugar levels dropped. All of a sudden, I went to the urologist, and they turned around and said, guess what? We don't see any more tumors. Now, I want to get everybody up in an uproar here. I don't know if that happened, if that was because of it, but I tell you what, it was a big to do with it. So I started probably in 2016. I started heavy into keto, and I'm a retired chef, so I know my way around the kitchen. And the bottom line was that I was doing real well. At that first time out, I lost 44 pounds. Okay. And I felt great. I mean, I couldn't feel any better. In 2014, I broke my leg in 4 places and my ankle. So I was walking with a cane. But once I started with keto lifestyle, I started moving around a lot better. Okay. But then, Jason, how it happens. I hit that poor me stage. Well, why can't I have a candy bar? I'll start it back again tomorrow. Why can't I have pizza or bread or whatever? Now, like I said, from cooking, I used to love to bake. I made my own doughs and stuff like that. Okay. So I went off track. So from the 44 pounds, I gained back 64 pounds. Okay. Now I can't walk again, can't maneuver. Went to the doctor out here. I moved at that time from Florida out here to Las Vegas. And when I went back to the doctor, he started a regimen of different medications again. So now I'm up to 14 medications. Felt like horrible. Okay. Couldn't walk. And the hard thing was for me to turn around, and I had to get one of them little jazzy things to go get the mail.
Right.
I looked at my wife. I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm sorry. I am not going to live my life like this. And that was the wake-up call again. I mean, the cancer scared me to death, okay? But just hitting that 60 mark and 64 years old and whatever, no, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. So I got diligent with it, okay? And I found it to be easy, because the easy part was just cut out, lose the cravings. Okay. So the first 7 days into it, I lost 12 pounds. And I know, my doctor said, well, that's water weight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I looked at him. I said, it's weight, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it just started snowballing. And my grandson said to me, hey, Pop, you should make a YouTube channel. And I got to tell you, okay, this YouTube, okay, kept me going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It gave me the incentive to get up. Okay. What are we going to eat? And, and how am I going to make it? And that's how the whole journey started. So.
Yeah. And it seems like that's a fairly common sort of, not exactly theme, but it does seem that a lot of people hit that wall, they come to the realization, well, it's this or nothing, like I was in the same position when I started, and it was basically when I couldn't keep up with my grandson. He was starting to walk around and run around, and I couldn't even bend over to pick him up. It would, I had sore knees and sore back, but it's the same thing. It's when something clicks and you're like, okay, well, either have to change or, that's it. Right. So
the best thing of the whole thing is that how all of a sudden I started the medications. So I don't need to take this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it seems to me, now this is just me talking, it seems like you chase your tail. Okay. So I started out with type 2 diabetes. So they put me on one medication. Okay. Now you got to go see the cardiologist, because guess what? There's a problem with that. So now your cholesterol, blood pressure. So it was I just kept going around and here I am. And then the other light bulb that went off is that one medication that I was on all of a sudden turned out to be $430 a month.
Mm-hmm.
My end.
Yeah.
I said, no.
Yeah. And that's another thing I like to remind people too, is, like, yes, eating whole foods, especially these days, can be, it's not cheap. Meat and eggs is not cheap these days, but, what's the alternative? Like, are you going to live the rest of your life paying for 14 medications that you have to take all the time? Like, I'm thankful for being, 53 this year, and I don't need any medications. Wow. I was probably pre-diabetic when I started keto. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine where I'd be now if I hadn't started, but I'm thankful every day that, I was able to find something that really did work. So yeah, no, it's great that you've been able to stick with it. And I agree, having a YouTube channel, even though I didn't start it right away, I was 2 years into keto before I started my YouTube channel, but it's a great way to motivate you to keep on track and, come up with new ideas. And, I watch your channel all the time, and the stuff that you make is basically just whole foods minus the carbs, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I had an awakening a couple videos ago. All right. I had, I'm involved with a lot of different people. I look at it this way. I'm not just with keto. I don't call it a diet. I call it a lifestyle, because it really changes what you do. So I got involved with a lot of guys from the barbecue place, and I mean, their videos and stuff. Really great people. Mm-hmm. A lot of homesteaders. Okay, and a lot of people that do canning and stuff like that. And because my main focus is that everybody has to eat. Mm-hmm. So I like to watch what other people do, how they make things, and whatever. So I had one guy from the barbecue community tell me, I don't follow you because the word keto. I don't like the word keto, and I don't like nothing about keto. Okay, so I got thinking about it. And I said, well, you know what? Coming from the restaurant business, everything I cook, okay, is normal food. Mm-hmm. Okay. Minus the starchier stuff, the potatoes, breads, the sweets and stuff like that. You can make whatever I make, and you add your own stuff to it, and it's just a regular dinner. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I switched it around a little bit. So I don't add this. I don't use breadcrumbs anymore. I'll use pork rinds.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, and it's just little tricks like that. But so now my last couple of videos that I made, I'm expressing that point. Okay, you can,
Mhm.
if you want, follow me, but you can also have you know, have it your way, like Burger King. you know,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know, and you know, any desserts and stuff like that. So it's not a, people have that myth about keto. Oh, it's keto. They're crazy. Them people are crazy. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know if you run into that or not, but I tell everybody, hey, I'm on a keto lifestyle. That's what I do.
Okay, so that started. So welcome to Keto Conversations, Natasha. It's definitely good to meet you here.
And you?
Yeah, I guess we found each other on Instagram. I don't know. We've been following each other for I'm not sure how long, but you know,
A
there's just
while.
there's so many people on Instagram that you know, it's hard to keep up with
Well, and also you
sometimes.
don't all see everybody's posts, do you? It's sort of
No, that's the
it's
thing.
so
Like
erratic.
there's certain people you see all their posts, and then there's certain people that you never see any of their posts. So I do appreciate you reaching out when I started looking for new guests for this new season of Keto Conversations. So you know, and I've been going over your page, and you've got some really good information on there. So
Thank
I
you.
guess basically we could usually just start on this with, you know, what got you into the sort of health space to begin with, and you know, how's the journey for you been, and then we can get into just some more specifics after that kind of thing.
Sure. So my journey started over 10 years ago. So I started in 2012. I'd had a lifetime. How old was I then? I was 41, and I'd had a lifetime of yo-yo dieting. I'd been an overweight kid since sort of the age of 7, and I'd gone through so many different diets and different stages, I suppose, and doing all the things you're supposed to do, trying to stick to low calorie and upping my exercise, and just calorie counting, all low fat, all that sort of stuff. But I also coupled that with periods of just not giving us stuff, and just eating to the point of, I'd lose weight, then I'd put it back on, and I just could not understand if I'm pretty good at sticking to things. I stuck to things religiously, and then the weight came back later on, and I thought this can't be right. This cannot be right for, I'm doing it right, but it's not working, So I got to, I did, in the UK, we have a thing called Slimming World, and I did that twice, and I kept thinking, if this works so well and everybody's doing it, why do I have to do it twice? By accident, I went into a health supplement company in 2012, and it suddenly struck me that whatever we were eating manifests itself in our health or our weight, good or bad. If whatever you eat is reflected on the outside, and that's where my journey started. And I don't know, I gave up sugar that year, and I gave up gluten, and then I decided to get a qualification, and it's just not stopped from there. I mean, I'll probably never stop learning, but now I've specialized in type 2 diabetes and the management of that, and actually that has made the nutrition stuff, ramp up even more, because everything to do with a type 2 diabetic is reflected in people that don't have diabetes. So the same things that happen in a diabetic is happening in people that will never get diabetes, but all the same health effects, the weight gain, or everything about it is all down to that insulin resistance. And that's really where I concentrate all my information on, trying to get people into the low carb world. Keto, of course, is part of that. I'm more of the low carb mindset because we don't measure ketosis, but because I use fasting in my approach, of course, we have ketosis. We're just not measuring it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think the one thing you said right from the beginning there is like ultimately the old saying, you are what you eat, it is exactly true. What you put in is what you're going to get out of your life. And it's, and I agree. Like my whole channel is about keto, just to put a label on it. But, I find myself more sort of carnivore-ish kind of thing. Ultimately, I just try to eat real food and go from there, basically. So are you like working with clients with this kind of like trying to get help for type 2 diabetics, like working with specific?
No, I don't specifically help type 2 diabetics. I specialize now in weight loss. And I've gone through, various different stages where I was focusing just on women, and then I keep having men as clients, and it just comes down to now I focus very much on people that were born in the 1960s and 70s, because we've had such a number done on us, as in the food beliefs are so ingrained. Whatever comes out now, they kind of that generation kind of have a default and this setting where we can't quite get our minds around the fact that sugar causes us a lot of problems. And when I talk about sugar, I'm talking about all types of carbohydrate. And some people will not put on weight when they eat carbohydrates, but the health risks are still there. So, you could be as thin as a pin, eating poorly, and still have really bad health.
Okay, so we're recording now. So this week you go by Bob, do you? Or just semi-retired Bob? Or
either is fine.
Yeah.
I answer to anything except late for dinner.
That's good. So that's your YouTube channel name?
My YouTube channel name is Semi-Retired Bob. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And I think most of the people that follow me also know of you. I've seen you all over the place in the keto community, or sort of the low carb keto carnivore community. So it's good to have you here. I think from what I've seen, you're mostly on a carnivore lifestyle, are you?
Yes. I primarily do lion diet.
Okay. So that's by nature, that's a really low carb type lifestyle.
Yeah, that's just ruminant meat, salt, and water.
Okay.
I have added pork back in just recently because the price of beef has continued to climb, and I'm a retired guy on a fixed income, so I had to do something, and pork was significantly cheaper. I picked up a pork loin for $1.99 a pound last week and cut it into meal-sized chunks, as opposed to, it was on sale, but and I just got some T-bones. I found T-bones on sale at the Food Lion for $6.99 a pound, so I bought quite a few of those. But $6.99 a pound is still a lot more than $1.99 a pound.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like they say, you just got to do the best you can with what you can, right? Like we'd all like to be eating grass-fed, Wagyu beef or whatever, but at the end of the day, you have to do the best you can.
Yeah, I could afford to eat that maybe 2 or 3 days a month, and then I'd have to do 27 days of fasting if that's all I was going to eat. And if you've watched any of my videos, I'm not a huge fan of fasting.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a tool for some people. I only do it because it comes natural to me, but it's definitely not required. I'm actually trying to eat more nowadays and fast less because I find it just gets too much after a while.
Yeah, and one of the things I talk about a lot is I believe in intermittent fasting and I believe in some fasting, but you should never try to force that. Just
Mhm.
eat like you would normally eat, and every once in a while you won't be hungry. You'll skip a meal and barely even notice it. Let the fasting come to you. Don't try to push yourself down the tracks to the fasting.
Mhm.
And that seems to work best for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find you're 100% correct when if you just let your body do what it needs to do and eat when you're hungry and stop with your when you're full, and then if you're not hungry, well, then maybe you can skip a meal. But you're right, trying to force it is never a good thing. I've only done one extended fast in the last 4 years where I went 48 hours or something like that. And it was an experience, but it wasn't really one that I enjoyed, so I just don't do that anymore either.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I like to start with in these interviews is just if you could sort of let us know what started you down this sort of healthy journey pathway, how you got there, and sort of how you started and how it's going, and then we can go from there.
Okay, well, to understand how I got to where I am, we have to go back to 1983.
Okay.
1983 is when I got discharged from the Army because I had gout.
Okay.
And gout is one of those diseases that it just interferes with everything. It makes it impossible to walk, impossible to exercise. And over the course of time, I followed, every doctor that I ever had gave me basically the same advice. And I followed their gout diet. And of course, it didn't help. But all it did do is 15, 18 years down the line, as I slowly kept gaining weight and gaining weight, because every time I started an exercise program, I couldn't stick to it. And of course, as you know, being about the same age as I am, or within 10 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
that back in the 80s and 90s, everybody knew as fact that all you had to do to lose weight was to eat less and move more. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way it was. It's what was taught to everybody. But it did not work for me because every time I tried to move more, my gout would flare up and I couldn't do it. And I'd end up worse off than when I started.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to when I was diagnosed with um, diabetes. And I was given basically the same advice by the diabetes nurse, the diabetes nutritionist, and she put me on what she called a carb controlled diet, which was 60 grams of carbs, 3 meals a day, plus 3 15-carb snacks.
Okay.
So as we know now, that adds up to about 240 grams of carbs a day, which is way too much. So all that advice did to me is 4.5 years ago, it bought me a triple bypass surgery.
Mm.
And just a little less than a year ago, I was sitting right here in this trailer, parked in the exact same spot where it is now down in North Carolina. And I have always been travel, tourism, photography, camping kind of a consumer of YouTube. And I have no idea how this video got suggested to me, but right in the middle of my homepage was a video by Dante Ferrigno. His channel is Ferrigno's Freedom. And the title of the video was 125 Days of the Lion Diet. Well, I didn't know what the Lion Diet was, but he had a before and after picture on his thumbnail. And it's like, well, that looks pretty good. Let me see what it's all about. And I wasn't very far into the video when I realized that it was just an extreme form of keto. And of course, I had always been told I can't do a keto lifestyle because they're all primarily meat-based. And everything I'd been told and knew as fact from the time I was discharged to the Army till last year was that, when you have gout, you shouldn't eat more than 2 ounces of meat at a sitting, never red meat, just chicken, pork, and fish. And 1 or 2 times a week is all you should have of that. Everything else was, whole grains, vegetables, all the other stuff that causes inflammation.
Right.
But I did a little more digging and searched for carnivore diet and found Dr. Ken Berry, a little guy with a little YouTube channel that a couple people might have heard of.
Yeah.
And I noticed that he was going live that night. So I tuned in, and of course I got in there and there was already 2,000 people waiting on him to go live. And I thought, well, geez, I'm never going to get a question answered. But I dutifully typed my question into the comments where I just said, I have gout. I can't really do a high meat diet. Is there a form of this diet that I can do that has any chance of helping me? And if I had known it was going to be this successful, I would have written the name down. It was one of his moderators. I don't remember if it was Mitzi or Two Crazy Ketos or who it was, but somebody said, Bob, meat does not cause gout. Here's some links to Dr. Berry videos that you can watch about this. So I immediately left the live stream and went and started watching those videos and proceeded to have everything that I knew as fact turned upside down in a matter of about 15 minutes of watching videos. Everything I'd known since the time I was discharged from the Army until this time last year, it was just wrong. And I had no idea it was wrong. My doctors had no idea it was wrong. But I then made the decision that, okay, well, this guy is a good old country doctor from Tennessee. He speaks my language because I'm originally from the Appalachian area as well. So I'm going to give this a shot. And when I got home from my travels, I got home on May the 8th and went grocery shopping and started on May the 9th, the day before my 59th birthday.
So this week we have Keto Mike with us from the Keto Journey with Mike. That's an interesting channel name for sure, but I'm sure we'll get into that. I guess I first ran into you probably through Tom. I
believe that's right. I believe that's right.
Probably through one of your live streams that you two do on a Wednesday night. So
that's probably is true.
Yeah. So since then, I've been following your channel and watching what you do, and that's why I wanted to have you on here because the aim of these videos is to bring as many different stories to YouTube as possible. It's just a conversation about our journeys and how they differ, and it's like I say, and I'm sure you agree that everyone's different. Everyone does different things. So
there's no one way to do it.
So why don't we start with usually I like to start these with basically just getting some background on you and your journey with keto. And
all right. Well, I am 66 years old. I am retired. I'm not a full-time caregiver to my wife, but I do have to provide care to some degree because she is a type 1 diabetic and has Alzheimer's and now has a pacemaker. So, so I do that. And, but I retired. I was in law enforcement for 43 years. And I got into keto. I started keto on May 6th, 2018.
Okay.
And, basically it was because I was tired of folks being the butt of people's jokes. I was tired of, them saying, oh, he was a big fella. He was as big as you. And I'm like, when did I become the measuring stick for how big people are? So it was basically that, and because I knew it was going to provide health benefits to me, but I really didn't feel bad. And, my cholesterol was a little high, but not real high. Blood pressure was okay. But now I couldn't ask for a better blood pressure or cholesterol or triglycerides. They're great now. They're where they weren't bad before. They're great now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. I'll be 5 years this May.
Yeah.
So, and we do it together. My wife and I do it together, and I have lost 110 pounds, give or take, according to fluctuation, a pound or two.
Sure.
And she's lost like 70 pounds.
Well, there you go. So you're both doing really good on it then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But do you find that, like you mentioned, and I guess ultimately I found the same thing before I started is, I had some issues, but I guess I didn't really feel bad.
Right.
But I didn't really know how bad I felt until, you actually change your diet.
Very true, because I do feel better. I do feel better. But it's hard to gauge better when you really didn't feel bad before. It's really hard to how much better I feel. Now, do I like looking in the mirror more? Yeah, I love that. But I got to tell you, folks, body dysmorphia is a real thing. I still can look in the mirror and see that fat man. And even though I know I'm not that man anymore. So
right. Yeah, 100%. It's, you get, and I don't know what it was like with you, but when I first started, well, at least within the first year was when I got all the comments, especially from people I hadn't seen for a little while. Once you start changing your body, everyone, I got everything from, you look great, to people being like, oh, are you sick?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Here's what's the hilarious thing. And I swore I was going to do a video for YouTube about it, because it's amazing how often it has happened where I'll see a friend and they'll go, wow, you look great. And I'll say, well, thank you. And they say, how much weight have you lost? I tell them. They say, well, how did you do it? I said, well, I do keto.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're not doing keto. That's bad for you. I said, you just said I look great. And I'll tell them that. Well, it's going to kill you. I said, you just said I look great,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, well, obviously, if you're doing this lifestyle long enough, and, you got to shake your head sometimes. Unfortunately, people have accepted some really bad information, mainly coming from sources that are invested in other programs that don't work.
Or have not researched it at all. And they're just claiming what they think it, because I'm an expert. I can do what I want and tell you what I want, and you're going to take it for gospel. And there's several of them out there who have demonized this that unfairly. I mean, but there's some justification that came, because what was it, a couple of months ago, that the American Diabetes Association came out and endorsed a low carb diet. They didn't go for keto. They didn't actually say keto, but they did go low carb. So that's a step. That's a step. So
the head of the Canadian Diabetes Association is keto.
Oh, really?
They support it. Yeah. So things are changing. I think that's what it's going to take. Is it's going to take people that live it to make the change, because half the time people running these organizations have no idea what they're talking about. They're just a face in the organization that's taking money from other companies. Right. So,
right. And I still remember when I went on Medicare, I started keto because I knew that my daughter had done it and had success. It didn't stick because she didn't have support at home. And so she went back to eating the other way, lost a lot of weight, and just couldn't keep it off because there was too many temptations in the house. And then I was going to one doctor that was part of a conglomeration of doctors. It was at Kaiser Permanente, which is a one-stop shop for docs. And he's my personal care, primary care physician said, "Have you thought about keto?" I said, "Well, my daughter did it, and I have thought about it." He said, "I do it. There's 4 or 5 of us here in the building that do it. Give it a try. See what you think."
Right.
So I did. Now, then when I started Medicare, I went to another doctor because Kaiser didn't have a Medicare program through my employer, and so I went to him first time, and he says, "So," it was a doctor that I had gone to before. He said, "So I see you. Wow, you've lost 110 pounds." And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Well, how did you do it?" Because he saw what my weight was when I used to go to him, and I said, "Well, I'm on the keto diet." He goes, "Well, it's not sustainable." Well, at the time, I was coming up on 4 years, and I said, "Really?" I said, "So in May, it'll be 4 years. When is this unsustainability supposed to kick in?" And he said he had the mask on because everything was going on, and you could see the big grin on his face when I said that underneath that mask, and he goes, okay, you got me."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, the whole sustainability thing, I've heard that a million times too, but
I have too.
And to an extent, if you treat it like a deprivation diet, like you're depriving yourself of, and technically you are, you're depriving yourself of all the addictive foods, basically.
Right.
I think this is sustainability comes more into play, for people that can't get over that initial hump of being fat adapted.
Right.
If they can't do the 6 to 8 weeks initially,
they're gonna have problems.
till they get to that point, that's where I think it can be like other diets where, it's too mentally hard to do.
Right. I tell people you need to be strict on this at least for the first 2 months. Because you've got to get into that mindset, that thinking, that way of thought, and all. After that point, if you want to add in a couple of keto treats, sometimes that's fine.
For sure.
Just don't go overboard with it. It's gonna, because junk food is junk food. It doesn't matter if it's keto or regular. And it's empty calories. Well, it tastes really good. It's empty calories still, but even though calories are not as important on keto, and some people will argue that they're not important at all on keto, I'm not one of them. I do believe there is an importance to it, but it is a much less importance than any other diet that's out there.
So this week we're with Hyla from Crafty and Carnivore-ish. Remember your channel, didn't it start out as just Crafty and Carnivore at one point, did it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Things change though, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good to have you here. We've been trying to set this up for a while, but you were definitely one of the people I wanted to have on this series, because we've been sort of following each other for quite a while now, and I think we have our channels have a lot in common, I think, but I like, as you've seen in some of the other episodes, my goal is to bring everybody's different story to the platform, and hoping that we can help as many people as we can.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with, I guess, sort of how you get started with the low carb lifestyle, and what led you to it, and we can go from there.
Okay. I can't remember like an exact moment that I decided to do it. I think I just kind of stumbled across some YouTube videos, and I know whatever I watched led me to Dr. Berry, and that's what changed my opinion about keto and low carb and all that, because, I'm on Pinterest a lot, and you see a lot of keto stuff on Pinterest, and it was just kind of eye rolling, because there's been low carb diets around for years and years, but the way most people think about it when they don't know anything about it is, I'm going to do it for a month or two and lose a little weight, then I'm going to go back to eating the way I was. And that's the way I saw it too. So I would just roll my eyes because I didn't really understand any of it. But once I found Dr. Barry, I just started binge watching his live streams and past live streams. And I was a little intimidated by keto, to be honest, because everybody would talk about macros and this percentage of fat and this and that. And I didn't understand what they were talking about. And that just turned me off of keto. And he made carnivore sound so easy. And I thought, well, I can give it a try. And, he talked about, I'm sorry, I'm saying, a lot.
No, that's fine.
I don't know why I do that. But he was talking about, I want to say he was saying that you should give it 3 months or 90 days or something like that. And so I thought I can do that because I have a lot of stomach issues, or I had a lot of stomach issues. And that was my main reason for wanting to do it, because I heard, story over story about it changing, helping stomach issues, whatever they were, abdominal issues. And I had had my gallbladder removed. So I was one of those people who's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I've had my gallbladder removed. But watching Dr. Barry and listening, and that changed my life. So I thought, I'll do carnivore for 90 days and see how I feel. And so that's what I did. So that's why I went with crafty and carnivore. Crafty, because I have the crafting channel, so I had to carry that over. And so I was like, okay, I'll be carnivore for 90 days and I'll just journal this for 90 days. And that'll be my channel name. I didn't really expect anybody to watch or, what was going to happen after that 90 days or anything. So that's the reason for the channel name. But I ended up going over 100 days carnivore. And of course, knowing what I know now and feeling the way I feel now, I'm not going to go back to eating that way. But I did want to have more options and not be so strict. So that's why I'm doing keto now. I consider myself keto now, even though for both meals, I had steak today. And yesterday I had steak for one of my, a lot of my meals are meat, just meat based. But I think if you call yourself keto, you've got more options and you're not so closed into a box. And people, you've got these carnivore people that are really strict and will give you a hard time if you eat something that's not carnivore.
Yeah, for sure. I think the whole Dr. Barry angle, the thing I like about him is that, he's not trying to put anyone in a box either. He is definitely pro meat based diet, more of a meat heavy diet than anything else. But the way he calls it, the proper human diet, is,
Yes.
It allows you that flexibility to, like you say, some days you're carnivore, some days you aren't. I'm the same way, I have lots of days where all I eat is meat, but the other night I had salad too. So,
Right.
it allows you the flexibility to just eat the way you feel the best.
Yes. And I wish from the beginning, if I could recommend to anybody, I would have just said I'm on the proper human diet. If I just told myself that I'm not carnivore, I'm not keto, I'm not this or that, I really like to say proper human diet. If I post what I've eaten, it always says proper human diet. I don't, and I'll put keto and carnivore in the hashtags, but
right,
that just widens it up, and you're not in this box of carnivore or ketovore or whatever. You can move around in that section.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, like you were saying at the beginning there, I think a lot of people fall into that frustration with trying to find out what keto is and all these things, because there's if you get sucked into the YouTube keto videos, when I first started too, it was the same thing. I spent 2 weeks watching pretty much every keto video I could find, and going between different creators that have different ideas as to what it looks like, and you were talking about tracking macros and how much this and how much that. It's it's no wonder that people look at it. They're like, well, this is, this sounds like work. I'm not even gonna try it.
Yeah. And that's me. I'm not the kind of person that likes to track things and write, and do an app and put all that stuff in there. I've done that before with the old way of cutting calories and exercising more. And I would write all that stuff down, and that would last like a week or two. And then I would just be burnt out on it. And I know that's what would happen to me if I started doing macros and stuff. It would burn me out.
Sure. Yeah. People that I talk to, it all depends on what your personality is. Some people thrive on data,
Yeah.
they like to see that, I know guys like Alan, he tracks a lot of stuff, and, he's the kind of person that loves to do things like that. But like you say, I'm the same way with tracking it. To me, if I had to track it, it wouldn't be enjoyable at all.
No, me either.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that I don't get to a position that I have to do that, because it will frustrate me and could possibly derail me. But I don't think I'll ever go back to eating the way I did, just because I feel so much better.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I think knowing sort of what the data says can be helpful. Like, if you can't understand food labels and stuff like that, and you want to use an app for the first couple of weeks, or even after you've been doing it for a while, and you think you're losing you're losing track of what you're doing, because it happens to everyone. I think you can get comfortable with what you're doing, and then things creep in, and then sometimes it can be helpful to track for a few days and think, oh, wait a minute, this is why I don't feel as good as I did last year or whatever. But I'm the same way. I would just rather do what makes me feel good, and I don't really care what the numbers have to say about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to do it for a week or two, I could probably handle that. But if I had to do it long term, that would I don't know if it would derail me, but it would definitely frustrate me and not put me in a good place, because I get stressed out very easily and overwhelmed, and that is what makes me emotional eat, stress eat. So that would be like, what would be the purpose of doing that to myself if I'm going to go in there and start binging on chocolate or something because I'm stressed out from doing macros? I mean, so I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible and give myself grace.